Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, KLRN land. This is Thursday, which means this is your early introduction to the weekend. Yes, this is Disasters in the Making, where we are going to hold your hand and guide you through the dark alleyways of Hollywood and introduce you to some bad cinema and have fun at the expense. However, somebody else will be holding your other hand along with me. From ScreenRant.com, it's Paul Young. What is going on today, Paul?
What is happening there, Bradley? It is my 50th birthday.
Wow,
50th.
half
I know.
a century.
Half a century, yep.
Damn.
I know. It's rough now. Nothing works without aches and moans and groans. My knees are shot, my back is gone. It's all from watching movies. I can put it all back to that. It's all movie related.
Is that it? So by putting your feet up on the seat in front of you, you've completely altered your lumbar and your spine is fused and you're a hot mess.
I mean, it's entirely possible that this morning around 4 o'clock, I couldn't sleep. I woke up because I was so excited about this movie we get to talk about. The day that I woke up and started watching Killer's Game, because that's what you want to do that early in the morning.
I got to say, I'm fairly fortunate that I don't have a lot of the physical maladies going on. Although I do notice every so often, about once a week or so, I wake up sore, which makes no damn sense to me.
No, what'd you do? Sleep? How'd you throw your back out? I was sleeping.
I'll sit there and lay motionless for the better part of 6 to 8 hours and get up and my legs are hurting. It's like I didn't do anything.
No, exactly.
But then I move around, have some coffee, and I feel fine. It's just like, why that?
How'd you throw your back out? Well, I went to go to the bathroom.
One morning my knee will hurt, and then the next morning my ankle is tight and I can't walk on it for 10 minutes. But it's like, what the hell's going on at night? What is something happening? Am I getting bludgeoned in my sleep or something? But other than that, no, not too bad. Yeah, I just had my birthday a couple weeks ago, and family was out of town, but I hit the tavern to go watch some football on the day. So of course everybody in there was buying me beer. I got overserved, and
Nope, that's how it goes.
might be the only downfall of this age.
Yeah, when was your birthday? It was recently, right?
The 10th.
The 10th, that's right. Cause you, me, Aggie, Stacy. There might be some other people.
Yeah, we have like a KLRN log jam of birthdays within about a 2-week span.
Yeah, they're all right in the row. And then my let's see, my sister's birthday was yesterday. My nephew's birthday is today. My one of my good friends I've known since junior high, his birthday is tomorrow. Perry Nemiroff, who has her own YouTube channel, and I've known her since 2010 through Screen Rant. Her birthday is tomorrow. There's my son's best friend's dad. His birthday is today.
Mm-hmm. I have a sister-in-law and an aunt. Also, my aunt is on my birthday. Sister-in-law yesterday. And I think the answer to that question is everybody was getting busy on Valentine's Day.
Pretty much. That's how that works.
Kick back 9 months and there you go.
Here we are.
Mm-hmm. It's the time of love and a lack of protection is what happened.
I wish somebody had protected me from this movie that we were watching.
Yes.
See how I segued into that?
Speaking of magical days of celebration, we're going to be honoring not much magic going on in this movie, both cinematically and dramatically, but
there's the powder of life. The powder of life is in here.
There you go. Okay, sure.
See? Magic.
We have a flying moose head. There's your magic, folks. Get ready for this. It's coming. But the whole reason we're even talking about this kind of nonsense is because there's some major Hollywood nonsense being released this weekend. It is the cinematic adaptation of the Broadway stage smash hit of 20 years ago, Wicked.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yes, and it's basically it's a reinterpretation prequel. I don't even know. Don't even care because it's a musical, because it's Broadway. And if you want to keep Brad away, there's your magic formula.
Brad away instead of Broadway.
Nice. I see what you did there. I have like zero interest in anything involving Wicked. I've watched the trailers. It looks god awful. It sounds horrendous. Yeesh. Yeah. So I won't be doing that.
I was kind of looking forward to it. I didn't want to see it like at all. Like I just don't. That doesn't interest me. Cats and Chicago and that kind of stuff. I really wasn't interested in it. But a couple of trailers in, and it started getting sort of interesting. I'm like, all right, I'll go see this. Hey, I could get into it a little bit. Jeff Goldblum's being weird, and Ariana Grande doesn't look too terrible. And then a fan made an edit to a poster for this film to make it more like the illustration. It was a very faithful adaptation or re-envisioning of that poster. And the lead character, Cynthia Erivo, lost her ever-loving mind. And instead of just ignoring a fan-made edit that was going viral because people were looking forward to the film, decided that she would take the Rachel Zegler way of promoting this film and just unload her vitriol upon this poor, unsuspecting dude who just was sitting somewhere and decided to make this in his room. It's like, hey, this would be cool. Look what I did. And she just took it so stupid personal that it turned me off to seeing this film. Now, the film is going to be #1 in the box office this week. It'll probably be #1 in the box office next week. It's really only competing against Gladiator 2. So I imagine it's going to get a couple of good weeks out of it. But like, I lost all interest in the film when she came out with that type of attitude about a fan of the film. We're not talking about somebody that took a fan edit and made it so that she looked horrendous or, was super racial or very offensive. He literally just covered her eyes with the hat like the illustration for the Broadway pamphlet does and made her lips red instead of blackish green. And it was a good edit. Whoever did it did a good job. And she just lost her mind.
Yeah, me and Nordy covered this on our Culture Shift last episode. And basically that's what it is again, this was a fan that did this, and they did a mock-up of the movie poster so it replicated the original Broadway poster. Now that original one was not a photograph, it was art. It was almost cartoonish in nature, but it had one character in profile, and the witch had her hat turned down and face shaded, so you only saw basically her jawline. And he replicated that with the movie poster. And she came out to say that this was racist, this was othering, this diminished me as an individual. I'm sorry, the racist aspect of it is completely lost on me considering she's green. I mean, pretty hateful to those people, I suppose. But again, this was a fan doing this and replicating the original artwork. And she's dumping on a fan. She's getting hysterical social activists. And yeah, this is not the way you promote your product.
It didn't make much sense either because they really need to start taking stars as like Hollywood stars. They need to take their ability to react on social media away from them during the promotion of a film, because these people are idiots and they have no idea on how to properly engage with their fan base. They feel like they're sitting in ivory towers the whole time they're doing this, and that you should be honored that they've bothered to give you their opinion on something. And it's truly not the case. Like, I don't agree with most of the politics of almost all of Hollywood for the most part, but I still enjoy and consume their product because I can compartmentalize and I can separate the person from the politics, the movie from the politics. They have zero concept of that at this age. That
they have to be heard, but
oh yeah,
what they end up doing is dumping on their own product. Like in this case, this was a fan, wasn't insulting her personally. It was taking the character and replicating a presentation of the character that was original. And Rachel Ziegler for Snow White, she's at the live action remake that's, I think, in limbo now.
No, it comes out next year, but she just did something today. She came out
and she tried to apologize for what she had said about Trump and, half the country is a bunch of retards. And then now she comes out and is like, if you people can't handle me expressing myself, even if I do it in an inartful fashion, it's like, that's not an apology.
It's not an apology.
Stop talking.
Take away their phones. Change all the passwords to their logins and don't let them have them. Make that part of your contract with these people, because if I'm Disney and I'm dumping $500 million into something, I want the people that I'm paying a lot of money to shut up. Well,
the dumbest thing she did was when she originally came out and she was talking about how the original Snow White story is sexist and it's more of a rape story because he has to come and rescue the girl and we're getting rid of Prince Charming entirely. And you're crapping on your product. And then they had Peter Dinklage complaining that, get this, the dwarves in the Seven Dwarves were played by dwarves. Can you imagine?
Yeah. And then what did he do? He cost probably some talented people the role of a lifetime to even have a role. They did. Yeah. It's all CG now.
So they recast the dwarves as a bunch of woke checkbox individuals. There was like one girl, one guy, one black, one Asian, and then that got mocked into oblivion. So the studio went back and like, F it, we're just doing computer animation. They're all cartoons now.
Good
So-
job, Peter. You were doing fine in your roles, but other people need that access because they're not as talented as you. They're not
So
as fortunate.
Hollywood's most popular dwarf have put 7 dwarves out of business in Hollywood. Thank you, Mr. Inspiration. So
But you know what else? You know who you don't hear making those kind of complaints? Willow. You don't hear it from him. He goes out there, he does the thing, and I'm losing track of his name. What is his name? I even met him once. He's a great guy. Yeah, he was at oh goodness gracious. He does the voice of something for Harry Potter. He's Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis. So
Yeah,
Warwick Davis was at Universal Studios when I went for the opening of the one of the Harry Potter exhibits, and I went and took my daughter. And they gave us access to the chocolate factory that's down there to eat at. I forget, it's got a name to it. And him and his family, his whole family came and they sat at the table next to us. They chatted with us for a few minutes. They were super nice. He had his bodyguards or whatever was with him because it's got him and his family. And they've all got dwarfism. And you don't hear him in the news doing the same things that Peter Dinklage is doing. He's an advocate that is not outspoken as far as like, give me more rights or give me better access than the others. He just wants equal access. And he gets it. The dude's been a Hollywood staple for decades.
well, he even went on with Ricky Gervais on one of his shows and was mocking himself in that capacity. Like making light of it. He wasn't, woe is me, pay my respects, don't make. And it's like, okay, Dinklage, you kind of did the same thing in Elf. You were cool about it. Call me a dwarf one more time. Do it. Let me hear it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden he's an activist. Like, I thought we were beyond this. I thought we were grown-ups at this point. How dare they cast dwarves as dwarves?
No, give them access to those roles. It's good it's good. It's good that they get access to those roles. Because that's how you discover better people for better roles down the future where you can cast a dwarf or I don't know, little person, however you're supposed to say them now, I don't want to be offensive, but you can cast one of them in a role that you would normally cast for, a normal height person. And it still works. You can do that, but you don't, unless you give them access to these roles, you're never going to see them. They don't play popular.
I'm pretty tired of the entirety of it all, though. This need by Hollywood performers to come out and lecture us about the way things are supposed to be. Shut up and go act. I'm not listening to your rant anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm done with them. I'm really. I just sit back and laugh at the way
all they got to do is take away their access to social media.
Just because, world.
Well, and I say this to people all the time, just because you have something to say doesn't mean I'm required to listen. And they feel as if you are required to both listen and act upon the words that they say because they want you to hear them. And that's just not how it works in Hollywood, unfortunately.
They have a right to free speech. You have an obligation to listen. Wrong. Well, what we're dealing with in the midst of all of this is what at one time held the record for the longest sequel to ever take place in Hollywood. In 1980, the Walt Disney Company started to come up with the concept of doing a sequel to the beloved classic Wizard of Oz. They had the rights to the books by Frank Baum. And as we saw take place with the Fantastic Four and 20th Century Fox, if you don't make a movie in a timely fashion, you actually lose the adaptation rights to that product. So they just said they've been kicking around the idea of either doing a cartoon or serialize it in television fashion or such. Now, Baum's got, 14 books in the Oz series, I think it is, something like that.
Yeah, something.
So they said, well, we're going to have to throw this together. And this is going to be a sequel. Now, at the time, it was I think 45 years since The Wizard of Oz, and that set a record for the longest sequel. But it was surpassed later when they came out with a direct-to-video sequel to Bambi that nobody
two.
watched. That kind of fell by the wayside quickly. So they decided to cobble together books 2 and 3 and come up with a script, I think. I mean, I've watched this movie now, and all I can think...
It
at
is
first
definitely multiple books.
Yeah, and it's definitely... as adaptations go, I don't like, having not read the books, admittedly, I have to still say, what the hell? Because I'm thinking to myself the whole time, is like, man, wasn't Frank Baum on some kind of drugs? Oh, no, wait, that was Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland. But
the biggest issue for this movie is it was the time of its release. They would have been better served waiting until now to release a series of books or a series of movies based on Oz in this time frame, because people have the ability to research what Baum was writing about and where these characters came from. What was sort of off-putting to viewers and what they didn't really truly understand is that you see Dorothy Gale in the 1930s version, and she's 16, but Judy Garland was 16 when she filmed it, but she looks every bit of like in her early 20s. She's got that 90210 syndrome. Whereas they bring in, oh man, I'm going to mess her name up. This is her first film ever.
Verussa Balk.
There you go. Verussa Balk, cute little girl. She's supposed to be 15 in this movie. She's every bit of 11. She doesn't look, I think she's 15 in the movie or in real life at the time. But she's supposed to, but she looks way younger. So it's supposed to be like a continuation of the story. But you've given us a person that is truly younger than the person we remember seeing. Because I don't know if you recall this, but back in the 80s and even into the 90s, every Christmas, I think it was, Wizard of Oz would play on CBS.
Yeah.
It would be aired.
You
watch
television.
Yeah, you watch it. So people were very familiar with the source. And so this was like way too much not like the source. Nobody remembered the characters. The Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man were basically cut from the main film.
Barely in this. And basically, here's
Cameos.
the problem, though. They couldn't determine definitively if this was going to be called a sequel to The Wizard of Oz or if it was a continuation of the books and connected, but not directly. So even from the start, you had a problem. And yeah, the main characters besides Dorothy aren't here except for like a little tag at the end, the climax scene. And you're dealing with a storyline that really doesn't. Okay, the first Wizard of Oz was it was all a dream. It was all a dream. Well, this one is a fever dream because nothing really connects throughout it. And you don't know, is she dreaming? Is she having this? Is it a real world? And then the stuff that takes place doesn't really make sense in any capacity unless you've probably read the books.
Now, the director who was fired during the film at some point, and then like he had a bunch of heavyweights come through there and vouch for him, and they basically returned him to the movie. Walter Murch. So he in an interview said that this is the most faithful adaptation of the books, even more so than the original movie, and he's not wrong. If you go back and you do a little research on these books, which we didn't have the ability to do back in 1985 when this thing came out, so nobody understood what was happening, because unless you read the books, you had zero idea what was going on. You wouldn't know that this was a more faithful adaptation of the book. However, sometimes faithful adaptations are not what people want. They want a interesting adaptation, and not every book lends itself well to a straight film adaptation. There's several movies in Hollywood that are like that, where they did a straight adaptation and it just was an uninteresting adaptation.
Well, I think the other problem too is when you combine books 2 and 3, you're going to eliminate a ton of elements because you got to compress everything into a time frame. So you're losing a lot of that connective tissue that would at least thematically makes sense.
Right.
Because cinematically, it's just like I woke up, had a dream, and wrote crap down in a book, and that's what this movie feels like. Just randomness. Now, the other problem, we're a good hour into this movie before we even start approaching Oz, which I'm sorry is not that compelling. We're starting off with Dorothy in her ramshackle house post-tornado. So she's with her aunt and uncle. The uncle is, I guess, wounded from the tornado still and kind of sullen and moping around and not doing much. He's kind of like Grandpa and Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory.
A little bit, but they don't even really give him much to do at the beginning. Like he's just talking about wanting to get her some help.
He muses and such. The whole thing starts out with her in bed looking out a window at stars, and Aunt M comes in 1 o'clock in the morning. All the lights are on, and she's carrying a lamp, and she's like, "Oh, you can't sleep." Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah,
Pull the
wake me up,
drapes,
woman.
cut the hurricane lamp, let the kid lie, and she'll knock herself out. But no, I guess she's got insomnia. And she concocts these stories about this fantastical world she was in. So the solution is electroshock therapy.
Of course. I mean, I don't understand why you say it with such disdain.
This is going to fix her. So they take her to a doctor that they can't afford. He's got this electrical apparatus. It's like a cabinet of electronics. And then he tries, like, his bedside manner cracks me up. If you look at this, Dorothy, can't you see a face? The dials are the eyes. This is his nose. Look at his mouth and his middle tongue. And I'm looking at this thinking, if I'm a 10-year-old kid about to get shocked in the head, this ain't making me feel better.
No, not even a little bit. And it's all quackery, right? So this is set, what, in 1899? They're getting ready. He says they're getting ready to go into the 20th century, but obviously his math is off. That would have been 1901. But I guess they felt like people weren't going to do that kind of math in the 80s. So it's just, it's turn of the century medical quackery. And that was like a big deal back then.
Okay, you're going to have to shut Toto up.
Toto!
So she's strapped to a gurney. We have one ponderous scene where they put her in a room, and we spend a couple minutes with her in this room, and there ain't nothing in this room, and there's nothing going on in this room, but she's in this room. It's like, can we speed this up or something here? It's like, okay, they put her in a room. Got it. Cut. No, let's linger. There's nothing on the wall. She looks out a window. She sits down on the bed. She gets a pumpkin from a strange girl who just shows up. No explanation.
Yeah, and the whole house was weird, right? So, it's horse
like
and
a
buggy
sanitarium,
time.
I think.
It sort of looked like it, but the lobby and everything was all ornate and, rich mahogany and dark velvet greens like you kind of expected during that time. And then they get upstairs and it's like, what, 20 bedrooms? There's at least 20 rooms in that hallway.
Yeah, it looked like a hostel.
But the thing is there's a guy pushing a gurney down the hall, and he has the ability to turn the corner with this gurney. Like, how big is this house?
And this is where they're treating children, but of course, everybody has to be so just arch and demeaning. It's just, oh, I see you brought a lunch. You don't need that. We have good food here.
And she just leaves the lunch pail on a gurney and bye-bye.
Yeah, it is. She's dressed in black. She's scowling at the girl the whole time. And it's like, what the hell was going on in the 1800s? But okay.
Now, let's give her some credit because this was Jean Marsh. And Jean Marsh has been around for a long time. She's been doing a whole lot of stuff. I mean, she's got several Emmys under her belt. And she even played Queen Bathmorda in Willow. So, she's used to playing the bad person. And she does a good job here, playing both her and Mombi, Norris Wilson and Mombi. Yeah, because they're doing the same thing they did in the first Wizard of Oz. Was everybody they introduced pre-Oz has some sort of role post-Oz. Like the Cowardly Lion is the one of the helping hands on the
Yeah, it was,
on the
that scene
farm.
at the end is like, and you were there, and you were
You were
there,
there,
and you
you
were
were
there.
there. Now they threw all that out the window for this movie. I mean, the Dr. Worley is there, as everybody's basically unrecognizable except for Marsh. The
Yeah,
tin, but you're not going to recognize the Tin Man anymore because he's literally a man made out of tin. But Gene Marsh does a good job, and so does Worley.
I mean, there's like the
Williamson.
performances aren't bad. It's just this is a film that makes no damn sense, and you don't care what they're doing, and you don't know why they're doing it, and it's just let's get through this already. So, well, it all kicks off first when she's out in the yard feeding the chickens, looking for eggs. Now she wants her rooster to lay an egg. I have a problem here. Sorry. But this this is key throughout the film. This is why I bring it up. Otherwise, I'd say, she's 10 years old. The hell does she know?
Now, Brad,
But-
it's 2024. Roosters who identify as hens can have eggs.
I forgot that. Yes. This is so it's a trans chicken we're dealing with.
That's right. Trans chicken.
How dare you other me? Okay. I'm not going to dead name the chicken now. But she's poking around for eggs. Now I had to replay this scene because at one point the chicken's poking in the hay and there's a key in the hay and the key bounces up. Now I thought the chicken crapped the key at first, the way they shot this.
That would have been awesome.
You barely see the key as it's pecking, and then the thing thuds in the hay and she finds it. She's like, oh, it's a key. Keys are significant in this film.
They do play a rather prominent role, do they not?
I kept waiting for some kind of symbolism, but no, it's just really plot convenience. So she gets this key, and at the top it says O with the Z in it. She's like, oh, Oz, got it. Now she's seeing the doctor. She's strapped down. They're just about to shock her, but thankfully lightning strikes and knocks the power out of the place. So electricity means they don't have electricity. Irony.
And then she tells him to go start up the generator.
Did they have those back then?
They didn't even have flashlights. She's hunting around for the girls in the dark with the flashlight. The flashlight wasn't invented until 1902. Thank you, Wiki, for giving me this information. Yes, wasn't invented until 1902, and this is set in 1899. I can't imagine they had generators back then.
No, I don't believe so. But okay, again, how dare we impart facts in a fantasy film, Paul? Come on, damn it.
I stand corrected. Michael Faraday invented the first electric generator in 1831. How about that?
So this back scrabble doctor in Kansas had one?
Used in Kansas. Yeah, that's what I'm typing in right now.
Just saying. Well, this happens. So they run out of the room to see what they can do. And while she can't get out of her gurney that she's strapped in, this young girl shows up a second time and unbelts her and says, come on, you got to get out of here before they get us. And they race through the house ponderously, get outside in the rain. They're chasing them down. Both girls fall in the river, but Dorothy is saved by a floating chicken coop.
Is that what that was supposed to be?
I believe so. Which would explain as... So they're in the river, it's surging, it's raining, lightning, drama. She climbs into the chicken coop. We have no idea what happened to the blonde girl. She's a goner, I suppose.
And she just disappears. And I started to think that she was a little Sixth Sense situation where Gene Marsh's character never really addressed the girl because they were both running together. So I wondered if they even saw the girl.
And well, they kind of set that up.
If the girl wasn't a figment of her imagination.
She just shows up in the room without opening the door, and then she just shows up in the examination room when everyone leaves, and then she's there, and then she's gone. And yeah, there's some mysticism surrounding this blonde girl. And next we see Dorothy floating in this chicken coop in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, are they in an ocean?
Okay.
They're in a Kansas Ocean? Is that? I know that they can get flash floods, but
Yeah, that seemed a little much, but at this point, I think we may have been veering over into the fantastical. Then the next morning, she wakes up in a pond. It's like, no, honey, this is really a puddle. But with her is her chicken.
look, I'm going to tell you
What?
one thing. Dorothy can sleep. I mean, she can hella hit a nap. There's a couple of maybe 2 or 3 instances in this film where Dorothy is just out like a light, bro. Like somebody just hit her in the head with a ball peen hammer and down she went.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of mayhem and disruption going on, and she's not the least bit bothered.
She is just fast asleep.
But she wakes up next to a chicken that had nothing to do with her visit to the sanitarium or the tempest that she rode in, but chicken coop, chicken makes sense, I suppose. And then the chicken starts talking to her.
Well, chicken is a convenient plot device that needs to be in the film that they had no way of shoehorning in. I kind of blame Baum for this one because of the way he wrote that story. The chicken just shows up. It's a really weird portion of the book. I mean, the whole series, I think, is probably
Well, nothing in this makes sense, including the climax, including the chicken, which we'll definitely get to. But the chicken is Belina, and the chicken is talking to her and talking in that very annoying chicken voice that everybody has when they talk like a chicken.
We should do the rest of the show in chicken voice.
I'm perfectly fine not doing that.
I'm gonna have to find a closing song that is the chicken song. We may have to find a Belina chicken song.
Oh,
you know who
hate our
voiced
listeners?
You know who? Well, let's see him make a fan edit of our movie poster, and then I'll have something to say. You know who does the voice for this chicken?
Do not.
Mac Wilson, spelled with no C, 1 K.
Oh, really? Wait, I got Denise Breyer.
Mac Wilson was the voice of the chicken.
What? Wait, how are we? But it was a chick. You could tell it was a female.
I guess he did it. He did the voice.
Because it says here, voice cast Denise Breyer as Belina. What the hell's going on? We have conflicts.
Mac Wilson. So Mac Wilson acted as the chicken. Maybe he was the chicken puppeteer.
Oh, you're right. Yes. Now I'm looking down at puppeteer list. There it is. Mac Wilson. Yes. So
that would make sense because he also did Little Shop of Horrors and some stuff in Muppet Treasure Island and all that.
I'll say this though, did a good job because that chicken looked realistic while it was talking. So
this movie won several awards for special effects. I mean, they did some pretty out there stuff.
A lot of the practical effects are good here.
They're like really, even some of the digital effects, where they're using I don't even know if it's right on the border, right? Willow was the first movie to have an actual digital effect, like a CG effect. So this would have predated that. So it's probably all stop animation for most part.
A lot of the rock work, they combined stuff. Some of it was standard animation, some of it was stop motion, and then some of it was puppeteer and makeup. So they were across the board on a lot of this, which means a ton of effort went into this.
Oh my gosh. And we give everybody on the staff credit for this because when it comes, the movie itself can be, hard to watch, but man, the effort, you can see the effort put into
there's skill employed here except for the script.
Yeah. Did you read the part where they had 40 Belinas on set?
No, I didn't know they went that far.
Oh, you didn't know about that? There were 40 chickens on set.
Because there were a couple times when it was live chicken that they had doing kind of impressive things, like standing in one spot. So usually chickens just bolt when you come up to them, and there's a few times where Reza Bulk walks up and just grabs them.
So they had 40 chickens, and each chicken, 40 real chickens, and it says 40 real chickens were available during the filming, and each of them were good for different things. there was and all their cages had tags on them, and it would say this chicken perches, sits, carries, run. There were also some chickens that would run around and attack cast members, and that Dorothy's arms were so small that they had a separate smaller chicken that looked like Bellina because she couldn't carry a full size one when she was running. Then they had a mechanical chicken that they used for up close shots. And and they said at times they had the mechanical chicken acting so real that the people in the screening room were unable to tell the difference between when the real chicken was on screen and when the fake chicken was on screen. I would watch a whole documentary called Bellina talking just about these 40 chickens.
Henpecked. The making
Oh
of
my
Return
gosh.
to Oz.
Henpecked. That is fantastic, Brad. Golly, this is why we're friends.
We're idea men on this program.
I would watch that. I'd watch a 55-minute documentary on Prime. And it would be about the making of this movie, but only from the chicken's point of view.
Well, we've got Bellina talking to her, and Dorothy puts it together. Wait a second. My chicken is talking. Does she freak out? Does she go bat crap crazy, running into the woods? No, she's like, well, I must be in Oz. Naturally. Of course, that's what it is. So she gets out of the pen. Now, the Bellina nearly jumps out, but she stops her because Dorothy knows that this is the desert of death or sands of death.
I think it's the desert of death.
And realizes she needs to grab the chicken, climb out, and hop on rocks in order to get to the grassy area immediately next to the desert, because that's the way it works. It's basically she was in a sand trap at a golf course, it seemed like. And then she realizes we need to get to Oz, the Emerald City, I should say. And place is looking a little, it's not looking good. Looked more like downtown Minneapolis. A little beat up.
Well, she finds this yellow brick road. Like wherever the desert was right next to, no. Okay, so she wanders out of the desert, gets a lunch pail from the lunch pail tree that grows ham sandwiches inside of metal.
Yes.
And Bellina says something about, I hope it's not a chicken sandwich in there.
Fried chicken, right?
Fried chicken, some of that. And then they keep wandering, and she finds the yellow brick road all destroyed and messed up.
The bricks are in a pile and overgrown with plants. So she climbs through them, to head towards the Emerald City. Leaves her chicken behind. I was like, wait a second. Don't you want to take her with? And then we watch as Bellina starts racing down the bricks. I guess that was one of the 40 stunt chickens they had. This one can run over bricks to catch up.
Stunt chicken.
And they get to Emerald City. Finally, it's all just basically a slum now, beat up, torn up. People are statues, and there's a sign that says, beware the wheelers. I guess this was supposed to be compelling. These are people that have literally wheels on the end of all four limbs, and they skate around on them.
I guess this was a real character in the books. I hate the way they conceptualized it, but give some credit to the guys in those outfits, because they're essentially on those little, like in Cirque du Soleil, where the guys are like in these little giraffe outfits, and they walk around on like hand and leg stilts. Right. Well, these guys are having to skate on those. Yeah,
they had to practice probably for a few months with this,
because they look pretty natural at it.
Their feet and their arms they're probably like what, not quite a foot in diameter, but not roller skates either. These are significant wheels to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting around on them for the most part. All right, I guess I kind of see what you're doing here, but why? But they're bad. They're chasing her down. She runs into a corner alley to get away from them, meets up to a wall. She's doomed. Oh, wait, there's a keyhole hey, she has a key. And she can open this wall and then close the wall.
And then they said, you have to come out of here sometime. We'll be waiting. And then they leave.
Yeah. When you come out, we're going to be here. And then they aren't. So she gets in this room and discovers a very portly, round robot with a mustache. And what I did not really understand about this robot is it wore a metal helmet over its round metal head.
Well, it was protecting the gears. That's
But we saw times when the helmet came off and it was just a metal dome for a head.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right. He like
It
lifts
fell
the
up
head
at
up.
one point. They're like, "Here, Mr. TikTok, I'll put your helmet back on." It's like, good. You just put metal on top of his metal to save that, I think.
Did you see how they did TikTok? Did you read up on that at all?
I did not.
Pretty impressive. So Tim Rose is the actor. Sean Barrett is the voice of TikTok. And Tim Rose, you've probably never heard his name. You've probably never seen him, but he's been in stuff like Howard the Duck, Dark Crystal, almost all of the Star Wars films. He does Admiral Akbar. It's a trop. He's the actual actor inside the outfit.
Right.
So to do TikTok, to fit in that correctly, his hands, he was upside down, and his hands were the feet, were inside the legs. And that's how he walked, was on his hands inside that outfit moving around.
Whoa, why?
I don't know. I guess that's just the way the character was built, and the only way they could get somebody in there to do it. That's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'll tell you what's not amazing, though, is TikTok the robot. Because he's very round. He gets around by basically rocking back and forth. He's slow. You have to wind him up repeatedly because he winds down. And throughout the movie, they have to keep fixing him because he rolls over, falls on his head or something. This is not a very good functional robot.
No, it's not done very well.
I mean, I don't understand the purpose of him, but okay, go with it. And he basically, he's got 3 wind-up keys on him. One is for motion, one is for thinking. I forget what the third was.
Walking, action.
Yeah, it was action, thinking, and what was the third? Because I remember I won't, because he's got one under each arm and one on the back, and it was like talking. Maybe I think that's what it was. Thinking and talking were separate.
Yes. He had a
Okay.
thinking, talking, and then action.
There we are. So this is a very high maintenance, low productivity robot. Great. We're going to spend the entire movie with him. And they now come out of the room. He very slowly opens the door and very slowly peers around to see no Wheelers. Okay. And they next decide that they have to find the Scarecrow and have to go visit a princess to find out where the Scarecrow is at. How they arrived at this, I'm not even really entirely clear, but this is Princess Mombi, who basically is Jean Marsh, the nurse from the sanitarium. She's not very nice. She's not very helpful. She guides Dorothy into a hallway that's filled with dozens and dozens of heads that are alive. They're inside storage cases. She could take her head off and replace it with one of the other heads.
Okay. While
Because
you
of
were
course.
talking about this, I just needed to do a little more research on this part of it because it's really crazy. All right, so Tim Rose did the puppeteering for all of the facial aspects of TikTok. All right, so all raising his arms and all that kind of stuff. There was a gymnast named Michael Sudden, Sundin, Sudden. He died of AIDS in 1989. He was an acrobat and a gymnast, and he was inside of TikTok. And I found a picture, and I'm gonna post it on Twitter here, of him inside this robot, and it is stinking amazing. Yes. So he's got straps on, and he is completely hunched over inside of the bottom kettle portion of his body, and his arms and legs are inside there, and then the top part goes on top of him, and he just would walk. That's why he was ambling everywhere. He can't stand up inside this thing, like at all. I mean, that's incredible, man. Give me more behind the scenes stuff give me a documentary on how this movie was made. There would be some interesting things here.
Yeah, I think the making of this film is more interesting than the making of the film that they made itself. It's just, yeah.
Well, how has there not been a TikTok channel on TikTok about TikTok from the movie Return of Oz?
Wow.
Yeah, and let that meta sit in there.
Got it. Well, they get to the princess, and she makes some announcement that she wants Dorothy's head to put in her collection for some reason.
Had like 40 heads or something, but
yeah, dozens and dozens
number 31
heads.
Was the original. Why wouldn't you have number 1 as the original?
Yeah, it counts down somehow. But
Very weird.
so she then locks Dorothy in a room before she removes her head, in which she meets Jack Pumpkinhead, who's in various body parts strewn around, but she puts him together and tells some story about how his mother is the original Queen of Oz, but doesn't know where she's at. And he's now, I guess, a pumpkin orphan. And how did the human queen have a pumpkin head son that's 7 feet tall?
She built the scarecrow to scare the princess Mombi away. Except he wasn't alive at the time. Except when she came around the corner to scare him, instead of being scared, she ran and dumped her powder of life on it, and then said some magical words and brought him to life. And then he fell apart or something, and I guess it's just inanimate objects come to life, and that's how it happens. But now he doesn't have a mom. Bellina should be the mom, if we're being honest.
None of it made sense. And Dorothy, meanwhile, just goes with it. Oh, okay, I'll put you together. I'll build you, you scary pumpkin head monster looking guy who's very friendly, because that's the way it works. Sure. Now we get to a scene where the princess, I'm trying to put this together. She takes her head off when she goes to bed at night.
And still snores.
Mm-hmm. Explain that, please. And then she has a ruby key around her neck that Dorothy absolutely has to get for no reason that's explained.
And where does she keep this key so that it's safe, so that nobody? It's the ruby key that accesses the only closed panel in the entire headroom, and she keeps it tied to her wrist, on a very flimsily tied to her wrist with just one bow.
Yeah, to the extent that when she rolls over in bed, it's no longer affixed to her, and Dorothy just nabs it. So, and again, now all these heads are stored in a hallway with, a glass case so you can see them, and their eyes move and everything while they're on display. But then, how did Dorothy know that's where the powder of life was? Say that specifically?
Jack. Yeah, Jack.
Say that?
Jack said because they wanted to bring Gump to life, so they're building this sofa thing that looks like it's straight out of Bedknobs and Broomsticks, And
Well,
they've got a
they take two fainting couches facing each other, put them together, strap them up with rope and other items. They use palm fronds for wings, and then they put a moose head on the front of it so the moose can fly. They just need the powder of life for this to work because
and Jack says she keeps it next to her original head. It's number 31, but she's got a key that you got to go and get.
I missed Jack's explanation. That is my thing. Sorry, that because I'm busy taking notes, trying to figure crap out, and researching at the same time. It's like, wait, why are they doing this? What's going on here? Why did they? So okay, I've missed some details, but this was basically all Jack's exposition. Okay, because he knew what panel it was behind, and he knew you needed the ruby key to get into the panel that has this life powder. So she gets the powder. Well, by the way, the princess wakes up, and when she doesn't have a head on, apparently she's not physically functional. She like stumbles around like Frankenstein, and until she fixes the head, then she's ambulatory like a normal person. Because that's the way biology works, I think. I'm speculating.
Yeah, she's wandering. Like, oh, let's be honest, she was moving around like a chicken with her head cut off.
No, actually, she wasn't. She was because headless chickens bolt around like mad dogs. This is more of like, again, Frankenstein. Like the knees don't bend when your head is removed. Oh, come here, Dorothy. Oh, you vexed me by turning. Damn it.
She's not sure where she can go.
So after they put together this furniture monstrosity, she dusts it with this life powder, green flecks all over the place, and pour a lot on the head of the moose, like the label instruction says. Like it's got bizarre ass words on it too. So they just figured out, no, that just means pour more on his head. And then boom, the moose head comes to life. And then boom, the cobbled together love seat contraption can fly.
Yeah, he's like, and the moose says, she's like, can you fly? He's like, I don't think I can fly. I've got wings. I guess I can fly. It just starts flapping his palm fronds, and out the door he goes, straight out the window.
So yes, they're again palm fronds for wings, love seat strapped together with rope, and a moose head on the front of it, and the moose head is flying. I need some of the Alice in Wonderland drugs at this point to figure out what's going on.
Truthfully, this is how I pictured the guys at Tesla building the Cybertruck. Same concept.
Now, along the way, we kind of glossed over this, and I think I know why, because it makes zero sense. There's, I guess, an evil king is what we're going to call him, that took over Oz. That's the way this is going. The Gnome King, who's basically rocks, who we're told stole the emeralds from the Emerald City, which caused everybody to turn into statues and the city to die off. And he's collecting these because he likes ornaments. So they have to find him to do stuff. All the while now, there's this rock communication network throughout Oz. So when they do something, we see a face appear on a rock, checks out what they're doing. And then we have this unexplained red rock edifice that comes to life and talks to the king, who's off camera, and explains what everybody's doing.
And it's this weird.
That makes no sense, though. They don't explain what this is, who this is, but just tells the Gnome King, oh, Dorothy's back in Oz, and I can't believe this. Oh, and another thing, King, she has a chicken with her.
Oh, chicken? Oh, give me that chicken.
So the king throughout the show, off camera, keeps saying, I need that chicken. and this rock face sort of thing. I was like, yes, sir, whatever. Okay, we'll get the chicken, sir, even though I can't move because I'm a rock face. But whatever.
But you know what, the other part that doesn't make a whole lot of sense is the communication. So it's so far the conversations between the Gnome King, who we've seen off camera, we've only heard his voice, right? We haven't seen actual conversations with him. Between him and the Living Rock have been pretty much like serious conversations. Oh, they're coming, sir. They're moving this way. They're moving that way. And then he asks him a question. It's like, hey, what are they doing? Oh, I don't know. Well, go find out. Oh, I didn't think about that. It's like the conversation tone changes to like comical. Did you catch that?
Well, yeah, I did, but again, there's so much in this movie that makes no sense that this didn't necessarily stand out. It's like, yeah, that makes no sense, just like everything else in this damn film. So, and I'm trying to figure out how a lonely boulder in the middle of nowhere sees them doing something. How is it communicating with anybody else to get to the Rock King, the Gnome King? This was a network of rock spies somehow. Now they're on the flying sofa. I said those words. The Wheelers now realize she's escaped and they have to go after her. And they run into the desert and 2 or 3 of them hit the sand and turn into sand and die. And the rest of the Wheelers are like, oh, gross. Yikes. We can't do that anymore. And then while they're flying, the ropes start breaking. Jack loses his head. They fly down to catch the head, but then the sofa falls apart and they all crash on the mountain. Nobody's hurt. TikTok's upside down. They got to fix him again. And they start talking to the Gnome King through the rock faces of the mountain, I think.
Yeah, and then I think they eventually start showing the Gnome King's eyes, right? Williamson's eyes start showing, and they slowly morph between what was like claymation, stop motion animation, and an actual actor.
Well, that's a weird thing. Yeah. So all this time the rocks are animated, the facial, like their eyes open, ooh, ah, ooh, and then they close and go away. Then in the mid portion, it is stop motion work, clay work, and other things. And then he's talking to them on the mountain and invites him into his lair, and then his head appears in the lair. First, again, as animation, then stop motion, and then eventually it's an actor in a rock suit smoking a pipe.
Yeah, and I've read somewhere that conversion took a very long time to do. I found pictures of them putting him into that suit, and it took forever.
Well, it looks like it. I mean, just the facial makeup alone had to take a while. He has a headpiece that's a rock. He's got a big ornate bodysuit that's a rock. So, okay, yeah, I guess he's coming to. Now, we should point this out. This was kind of funny, actually. Disney has the rights to all of the Baum books. However, they still had to pay royalties and licensing to MGM Studios because they made the original Wizard of Oz. And in that movie that was not in the book were the ruby slippers.
Yes.
So they had to pay another for the right to have ruby slippers in the Wizard of Oz sequel. That wasn't in the books, even though they're true to the books. Again, nothing makes sense
anymore. Well, it was really weird because had they just not paid that, I guess they felt like they needed to include that connection, although the film itself is one big connection to the last film. I mean, you could have easily said that the Gnome King turns the slippers into silver because he mines, it's what they do, or that's his magical power is to mine silver from rubies or whatever. Like silver's more important to him. And then you're right back into the process of the book. Instead, they paid a hefty fee. And that's all you can find, right? You can only find the words hefty fee. You never find out how much they actually paid for it.
Right. That's probably off the books and only for the lawyers to know about. And the weird thing is they really could have just vocally referenced the ruby slippers, but I guess they felt the need to have them on camera so they can connect to the first and keep an audience or what have you. But the Rock King apparently has the ruby slippers. That's why we're even talking about this. She
Well,
got
well, the weird part.
transported back to Kansas and lost them during the trip.
Well, the weird part is that those aren't even the original ruby slippers. I mean, the original ones, what was it? From 32, 33 to 85. I mean, they're 60 something years old. They weren't have been able to do that. They were making these things with handcrafted gems from Australia. And they were so fragile that eventually they would only let them be worn when they were filming, because they were breaking and having to hand sew all the crystals back to the slippers. And there were like 2 sets or 3 sets of them, and the little girl actress got to keep a pair when the filming was done.
Yeah, a lot of effort went into this for them to be on camera for all of about 30 seconds. Like, we see the king wearing them at one point. I'm not judging, I'm just saying. Then she has them on towards the end, and then at the very end, when she wants to go back home, she does the heel click thing, and there you go. But again, none of it vital, but I guess it was vital to draw what meager audience they did to connect to the original. This movie is getting painful at this point. So now they're in the lair, and because nothing has made sense to this point, let's keep making no sense. He dictates to all the players there that in order for her to be reunited with the Scarecrow, who she ardently needs to meet, and I'm not sure why, he says, I turned him into an ornament because I love ornaments. You go in the room of my ornaments, touch 3 of them, and say Oz, and if it's the correct one, he'll appear, and if it's incorrect on the 3 guesses, you'll turn into an ornament. That's the clipped version of all of this. As convoluted and stupid as that sounds, that is what's going on here.
And it's in the 3rd act, and it is probably it's over 10 minutes long.
Oh, and half of it's off camera. So they have claymation that opens a pathway into the rock face. A bunch of hands come out and open a door. They walk through it, and then it shuts behind them. And we don't see what they're doing. We see them still in the hall with the Rock King talking and stuff. And then there's a loud boom and flash. And he says, well, he's an ornament now. Got the guesses wrong. Oops. Next. And so I'm not even sure how. What's the moose head's name?
Gumph.
Again, this is a mounted head of a moose on a piece of furniture, and he says, "Well, I can't touch it." He's like, "Use your antlers. Get in there and guess."
And he goes wandering in, like his little legs are just kind of moving.
He moves about as well as TikTok. It's basically the sofa bouncing back and forth to move into the other room. And then, of course, boom, flash, and there you go. So Pumpkinhead and Moosehead have now become ornaments. Now it's TikTok's turn. He goes and disappears, and this goes on and on. Finally, the Rock King is like, "Oh, your robot stopped moving." And she's like, "Oh, I gotta go wind them up."
And she's like, I just wound him.
But see, this is where she wound TikTok's thinking mechanism. So he played as if he wound down to draw her into the room that she was going to be sent in anyway. Like, that's your plan.
Well, and he's like, hey, here's my idea. I've got one more guess. I'll make a guess, and then you watch and see what I turn into. And then it happens. Did she document everything in the room first?
Well, not only
nothing
that,
changed.
Yeah, and not only that, he disappears, and she touches a couple things and says, Oz, nothing happens. Oops, I'm down to one guess. And then she bumps into a big emerald and touches something and says, wait a second. Emerald City. Emerald. she puts it together that maybe the emerald, and she touches the emerald, says Oz, Scarecrow shows up. Hey, they figured it out. Anything green now, touch it and say Oz. So they do, and they do. And then the king starts getting pissed off. He grows, ends up destroying the room with all the ornaments that he says he cherishes and loves. Why? Because he was that mad. Meanwhile, TikTok, who she supposedly saw change into something, they can't find him. At this point, I'm sorry. I have to. I'm just giving up. What the no? Why? What? Nothing makes sense. Nothing's leading to anything significant. I have no idea what's going on, and the stuff I do know about, they're contradicting on screen. The original Wizard of Oz was like, yes, fantastical and dreamy and all of that, but it was rather linear, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward.
Crap like happened. It was all just, dreamlike and fantastical in nature, but it's still, you could follow it. It made sense. There was a purpose to it all. Follow the yellow brick road, meet this, go there, do this. Okay, got it. Step by step. This is just, I think the screenwriters basically just kept saying, hey, why not? Why not have a talking Rock Mountain King? Why not have them go into a room and not see what they're doing? Why not have her rescue everybody but the guy she saw disappear into?
Yeah.
And
really,
so,
and really, their issue was focusing on two different books. I think if they stuck with one book and tried to make this part of a series, they probably would have been better off. Again, I think they would have been better off making this thing now as opposed to making it back then, just because now people have access to look at the extra books, right? You can go to Wiki and figure out, well, is this a direct sequel? No. Oh, okay. So it's supposed to be weird. Yeah. But back then, nobody knew that it was supposed to be weird. Dude, this is one of the darkest movies that Disney had made up to this point. There's a lot of dark imagery in this film.
It is, but it's more like, I don't know, more like Overcast than dark. It's just, yeah.
Well,
I mean, I know what
you
you're
got
saying,
you got
but it
a
isn't
wizard lady that takes
exactly.
you got a wizard lady that takes everybody's heads. There's electroshock therapy. One of the little girls drowns. The Gnome King is trying to eat people at the end of it, like literally eat people. You're bringing other people to life. The Wheelers' masks are super scary with an open mouth and the teeth. Everybody's turned to stone. You literally got people alive people turning into desert sand. It's not as it's a pretty dark film.
Yeah, it's got. Did this come out before or after Black Hole?
Oh goodness, Black Hole would have been the 70s, right?
Yeah, I think that came first. And I think that was one of Disney's. That one I'd say dark.
79.
Just that was 79. This started production in 80, but finally came out in 85. But still. So this is our climax. Now, the Rock King is getting pissed that they've figured something out. He grows into, I don't know, 40 feet tall and starts doing so, destroying his ornament room. Like pillars are coming down, arches are collapsing. And yet our gang of heroes, they don't really seem worried about their safety. Like, I'm sorry, a building like that's coming down. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm beating cheeks. I'm going to clear out. No, they're just like, well, that's happening. That doesn't look good. So at one point, the Gnome King grabs the sofa, but without the moose head attached to it, and eats the sofa. Because of course he does. I mean, what else are you going to do if you're a Rock King? I'm eating furniture at this point.
Here it comes, eating the sofa, except the head.
And then he grabs the Pumpkin King and holds him up above his head, opens his mouth. The mouth gets enormously large, and everybody's just freaking out. How are we going to get out of this? What can possibly save us? Guess what? This is exactly what the screenwriter said, too. So, I know. Let's have the chicken be inside of Jack's pumpkin head. And the chicken, who has been unable to lay an egg the entire movie, lays an egg while inside the inverted pumpkin head, whose cap had already fallen off. The egg spins around, falls into the Rock King's mouth, which is poisonous to a Rock
Poison.
King.
Poison. The whole mountain starts screaming, poison.
Now, at this stage, Jack and the chicken are about 30 feet in the air as he's holding him up, minimum, as he starts collapsing, and yet somehow they make it to the ground safely. This mountain of rock collapses in a very dramatic pile of death, sure. And Dorothy walks up to this now freshly created slag heap and finds the ruby slippers. Of course she does. I mean, damn, that's like finding a stiletto in a rock pile. She puts the ruby slippers on. This reanimates every single person in the Emerald City that had been a statue previously. Also, it completely rebuilds all the structures that have been destroyed at that point. The last 5 minutes of this movie are just sheer convenience of the highest order.
Well, it feels like they wanted to get to the end and they were just done, and they're like, how do we stop this? But it took the head animator 4 different takes on the destruction of the Gnome King.
Because it looked like ass. I mean, I'm sure it was very complex to do and all that, but it just wasn't visually gripping. It was like
it was all clay. It's all clay and stop animation.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I appreciate the effort. I'm just saying the end result was, bunch of rocks fell down. Got it.
But it was also creepy. I mean, the dude's face falls apart. I'm telling you, this is a creepy movie.
You seem affected by this film, Paul.
Well, it gets you when you're younger. This one, The Black Cauldron.
You're not younger, Paul. You just turned 50.
Bambi's dead. Bambi's mom is getting killed by hunters.
Are we unearthing some kind of childhood trauma here on the show? Are we?
Well, I would lay down on one of the fainting couches and explain it to you, but the Gnome King's eating them.
Yeah, there you go. So now they're heroes. The Emerald City is back to its opulent grace. There's even a small parade for them, including the chicken who's wearing the key proudly around her neck. I have a problem with this scene, Paul.
Well, so did Fairuza Balk.
Oh,
she passed out in this scene.
Oh, well, that's more a physical malady. Mine's one of a thematic nature. They're walking through Oz. The place is just filled. Everybody's screaming, cheering. I saw maybe 2 munchkins altogether.
Yeah, there's only 2.
What happened there?
Well, Oz itself wasn't made of munchkins. The munchkins lived outside of the Emerald City. This was in the Emerald City.
Oh, is that it? They're blackballed, is what you're saying.
Where they weren't. They lived like the hobbits. They lived in the Shire, outside of the main city. Emerald City was completely different. Remember, you had to follow the Yellow Brick Road all the way to the Emerald City through the field of poppies where you got high.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm still. Yeah,
that's where all the normies lived.
This is munchkin-free film for the most part. I'm just saying.
Now, I found out an interesting piece of information here. So that scene where she's riding on the Cowardly Lion's back through the parade.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real actor inside the Cowardly Lion suit. The dude's really dressed up like a lion, and she's really riding on his back. What was that fella's name? It was just something that Jim Henson Creature Shop built. And that's what he's walking around in, and she's riding on his back. Well, it got to be 109 degrees on the set. 109. And she passed out on the stage during just the filming of that scene.
She passed out. This guy
passed out.
John Alexander, by the way, was his name.
Was he? Okay.
Found it. But he's inside of a lion. I mean, it looks like a real lion. This is the thing, like we said at the start, the main characters, we don't see him. There's a statue. The Tin Man looks nothing like he did in the first one. He looks stupid, actually.
Well, it's because they put a 10. I think that these characters more closely represent the illustrations from the books.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
And the ones with the live action characters, they couldn't make look like that and still have the ability to
Yeah, it was
film.
1930s. We have to, mock people up and stuff. But
Mhm.
yes, so the Scarecrow kind of looks like the Scarecrow from Batman, and the Cowardly Lion looks exactly like a lion, and the Tin Man looks nothing like the Tin Man from the movie, more like an extra from the animated film Robots.
Right. Now, there are several characters in the books that make cameos in this scene. Now, I only know this because I read it. I would not know this if I hadn't read this part. Now, maybe if you're a big fan of the books, you probably would have recognized him if you've seen him, but there's somebody called the Braided Man, Mr. Button Bright, Cap'n Bill holding the magic flower. There's the China Clown, Frog Man, Glinda the Good Witch shows up. I'm gonna have to go back and see that scene and see if I can find Glinda because she's from the first film. Some of the Munchkins are there. Something called the Musicer, the Patchwork Girl, Polychrome, the Shaggy Man, and Tommy Quickstep. Now,
Wow.
give the writers some credit for digging in and finding those characters. That's James Gunnsworthy of like what he would do in Suicide Squad. Just go and find these extra characters. Or Lego, any of the Lego Batman films where they would just find all these little extra characters and throw them in, and only people who really dig deep would recognize them. That's essentially what they've done here. They've gone to the B side for a lot of these characters and they've thrown them in.
Well,
I give
props
them credit for that. Yeah, I give them credit for that.
extra work.
Oh, you know how many people died in this movie? Tell me again how not dark this film is. This movie has a body count.
Wow.
8.
8 people died.
8 people, 6 wheelers are turned to sand. The Gnome King dies from a food allergy. That's what he wrote on here. He dies from a food allergy. And then Dr. Worley dies off stage in a fire.
Oh yeah, they tell us the asylum that she first went to burned down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is how everything wraps up. The young blonde girl at the start at the asylum is the true queen of Oz, and then Jack's like, "You mean my mother? Wow!" Faint. Thank you. Drama. The queen then invites Dorothy to stay. She's like, "No, I need to get back to my ramshackle life in a hovel in the middle of Kansas with a destroyed farm because this opulent, rich city is not for me." And clicks her heels, and they find her washed up on a riverbank and said, "Oh, we were about to give up on you, but we found you back at the house and go outside and play with Toto."
Now,
There's our
the
movie.
the whole scene of and it's not a long scene, right? How long do you think the parade scene is in the Emerald City? 2 minutes, maybe 3?
Yeah, about 3 or 4, maybe.
I mean, it's not very long. They reshot that entire thing to replace the wardrobe on Emma the Princess.
Really?
In the first one, she's wearing some sort of gold braided lace dress. And after they filmed it and had edited it together, they realized that dress was off-putting and didn't fit in the whole rest of the scheme. So they recreated a whole nother dress. But by the time that they made it for her, she had grown. So it didn't fit her right. But they had to film it anyway because they were behind schedule.
Mhm.
And they went ahead and filmed the whole scene again from beginning to end. The whole scene got filmed again with her in a dress that didn't fit. All because they didn't like the color of the first dress.
I love Hollywood.
And they spent $6 million on advertising for this film, which that's kind of a lot of money in the 80s.
Yeah, and this thing made about 1/3 of its budget back. So yeah, failure. I did find this funny. Throughout the film, TikTok the robot is basically this smudged copper color, dingy rust almost looking.
Old dirty, yeah.
And then in the final scene, he's glimmering in gold.
He's all shined up. It's kind of like Chewbacca, and his hair's all combed nice and neat.
Well, I was
in the
going to say,
final scene.
he kind of looks like a fat C3PO in retirement now. I mean, like painfully glistening gold. Like, holy crap, let's tone that down a little bit, guys. Nope, he's gold. But this is Return to Oz. There are people that insist that today is regarded as a classic.
It's probably a cult classic. I mean,
I don't see it. I'm sorry.
If you look at IMDb, it's actually gone up in popularity by like 900 points. It's up 1,000 points right now in popularity.
I mean, sure, but I don't. This thing is so just disjointed and it's almost like they took the script and just swirled it in a blender and just see what comes out. It's like, sure, flying furniture. Let's go with it. I'm sure a lot of this is in the books too. And probably reading it is fantastical, but watching it on screen, you're like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they doing this? Where'd they go there? How come a rock is dying from eating an egg? None of it is
Food allergies.
just doesn't. I'm sorry, classic. I'm going to say no.
It's a cult. I would label it a cult classic. Only because when Disney Plus came around, people got to rewatch it. You can see videos of people talking about it when it came back on. They're like, I get to relive the childhood trauma that was.
Trauma is the word you're looking for there. Yeah.
I mean, I was 11 when this movie came out. I remember we didn't see it in theaters. I think I saw it on VHS much later, like maybe 88, 89.
See, usually like when something becomes a cult classic, when you revisit it, you realize, hey, this thing's good after all. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this didn't do any good. Office Space, classic example. Think nobody saw it in the theater. And then they started watching on cable and they're like, holy crap, this thing's hilarious. This is great. This is funny. This is satire. Not this movie. Watching it with sober adult eyes, you're like, what in the living hell were you thinking? So I'm at a loss there. If they want to call it a classic, sure, but I'm sorry, I don't see it.
I wouldn't mind them going back and making a TV series based on the books, as long as they didn't try to woke it up,
Well, this is Disney we're talking about, so they have to.
Yeah. Or maybe Elon Musk will buy Disney, and then all the woke will be gone, and people can return back to just being entertained.
Well, there you have it. That was Return to Oz. So if you're going to avoid Wicked, you can also avoid this one. It's just, it don't make no damn sense, as I say. All right, Paul, why don't you let everybody know where they can find more of your content?
You can find me on Zitter, at Movie Paul. And TikTok is Paul Young 1971 or 74 or something. I don't know. It picked a name for me and I never chose it.
Have you migrated to Blue Sky yet?
Why would I do that?
It's all the rage. It's what all the cool journalists are doing these days. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm going to Blue Sky. And basically, you're in a hive with a bunch of other leftists complaining about the place you just left.
Yeah, echo chambers. I got off of Parler and Truth for the same reason. Echo chamber became boring. Everybody talking about the same things all the time. I've got a bunch of liberal friends, and I enjoy hanging out and talking things that are not politics with them.
Yeah, it's kind of amusing. There's actually a new account on Jitter that's the libs of Blue Sky that just details what's going on over there. On one day, 34,000 reports. Because all of the complaining leftist liberals are over there complaining about each other now. Oh my God, you disagree with me? I'm reporting you.
Wow.
Those guys like, what's good? What? So
Wow.
they couldn't tolerate all of the complaining and nonsense on Jitter, so now they just complain about each other on Blue Sky. Fun. Well, I'm not there, but I am here at KLRN. You can hear more of me next week on, oh, no, it's going to be Thanksgiving next week. So it'll be you and I, but alternate Thursdays, I'm usually here with Ordy Packard on the Culture Shift as we guide you through entertainment news. And Tuesday evenings, it's me and the ever effervescent Aggie Rican on the Cocktail Lounge, where we take your mind off of the mayhem of life with cocktails and football and art and all kinds of other fun stuff and roll it into social. But you can also read me on a regular basis. I'm at townhall.com. I got a daily media column there called Riff from the Headlines. Also on the front page of Red State, where I also have a twice weekly podcast called Liable Sources. And if you need more of me than that, and let's face it, you do, head over to Jitter, not Blue Sky. I'm at Martini Show. Well, we have, I don't know, we might have to come up with some holiday themed entries.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
next episode is going to be into the December frame. So we might have to check and see what's available.
Well, I got to figure, and we may be able to do a show live together because I got to figure out a way to get down there to give you your Christmas gift.
A live, wow, we haven't done that since, what did we do? Jaws, one of the Jaws movies together down here.
Did we? Jaws 3?
I think it was, yeah. Live from the hotel lobby in Coral Springs, Florida.
Oh, that's right. My family got locked out.
Yes, you got locked out of your room, and I got fed up with the front desk because you started stealing beers from the bar there, and yeah, it was a fun night. All right, well, we'll see what we can concoct, and Paul and I will put our disturbed brains together to come up with more features and deliver them here for you on Disasters in the Making.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.